That's a pretty sweet job.
Okay, there. Saying no sound. How about now? There should be sound. Okay, there's the sound. Can you go ahead and talk so that we can see if they can hear you well or if you're too quiet?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Can you hear him? All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep, they can hear. Well, someone said no. What a
Someone
troll.
said,
What a
oh,
troll.
get out, get out.
You are uninvited to this party. You're a normal gamer. Okay, so looks like we can go ahead and start this. I don't know. Should we start 5 minutes early?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, let's do this. Hi, everybody. My name is Pocket, and I work for MMORPG, and I'm here interviewing Colin Johanson of Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet.
Hey, everybody.
Just a quick overview of people who might not know exactly what you do. Can you go ahead and state what you do at ArenaNet?
Yeah, I'm the game director for Guild Wars 2. I'm in charge of basically putting together the plan for kind of what we're doing with the game in the future and helping make sure that everybody loves their job and enjoys working on Guild Wars every day.
So basically, you make games and you have a great time. Man, so many people would love to have that job. Anyway,
It's a rough life, I tell you what.
I have some opening questions for you, and then we are going to switch to some questions that were actually asked by a bunch of forum goers on the site.
Okay.
So first off, I know there was a lot of effort put into this Halloween event. It's by far probably the best holiday event I've ever taken part in, and I have taken part in many different MMOs events. And from the jump puzzles to the outfits to the dungeon to just everything that you guys put into there, my question is this going to be a one-time thing, or are you going to see a lot of this reused next year as well?
Well, first, thank you very much. I think for the nice compliments on the holiday. From Guild Wars One, holidays is something that we've always taken really seriously, which sounds kind of weird, but really seriously in ArenaNet. We really want to make those something special for our fans, and we wanted to up the ante even more in Guild Wars Two and take them even bigger and show really something that people haven't seen before in a holiday festival. And so, yeah, I think when we look at next year, we may use a small amount of that stuff as the baseline to build on.
Hmm.
But we don't want to have the same holiday festival every year over and over again. We really want to build on that and add even more and make it something special each year. So hopefully next year there's something even more over the top and crazy that builds on top of the stuff we've already established. And as we do more live events and holidays and festivals in the future, and we're going to do a lot of really special one-off events as well that aren't just holidays. You're going to see a lot more of this stuff, and hopefully the scope is, in the ballpark of what we did for Halloween.
That's awesome. I can't wait. So, real quick, it took me 5 hours, over 5 hours, to complete the clock tower. How long did it take you?
I got to be honest, I gave up after 3 hours. I did everything else, and I couldn't do the clock tower. It's really embarrassing, but I couldn't do it.
Wow, you couldn't do it. It was rewarding enough just to be like, I completed it. Yes. Anyway, so I just had to ask that.
I
For
I
future.
did it internally, but I cheated a little bit and teleported a couple times. So
Oh,
once we got
yeah.
on live and I couldn't cheat anymore, I totally couldn't do it. It was really embarrassing.
I got lucky, and towards the end of me completing it, there's nobody in my instance because I was in overflow, so I got really lucky. But yes, for future costumes, do you plan on making any combat usable skins, or will they all remain just town clothing?
That's something that we're going to talk more about in the future and try to make decisions on. We added the costume brawl to see if we can make costumes just a lot more fun to play around in and to give you more content to do while you're in the costumes. We add a lot of those fun, jokes that you can tell in the Mad King costume, and the ability to float all over the world on the broomstick. Things like that to just try to make the costumes a little bit more exciting and interesting. And so we'll see how that goes and see what the response is towards that in the future, and we'll just keep an eye on that and decide on if we want to do anything more with costumes beyond that.
Awesome. I really like the helmet. I don't remember the exact name, but the scary helmet, where it's like darked out face and pink eyes. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah, yeah, that I think is sweet.
So, do you plan on putting the same amount of effort, if not more, into the major holidays throughout the year? And uh, this will kind of dive into November. And
Yeah, so we definitely, Winter's Day is something that is coming in the future. That's a Guild Wars 1 tradition, and it's something that we always do in December in Tyria. And that will be a holiday festival that comes back again, and certainly will be in a different twist now that the gods don't exist in the world anymore and haven't been seen. So I think you'll see a very different storyline for Winter's Day this year. And beyond our traditional festivals, like I said, we're going to start doing a lot of special events in the game as well, and having stories that occur over the course of a weekend. And in the future, we'll have sort of recurring stories that build out over time and actually tell stories that occur across the world and change the world over the course of many months. And those are the things that we're going to look forward to and build on. And, scope-wise, some of those might be a little bit smaller than Halloween. Some of them may be much bigger and span many months. We really want to offer people a whole variety of different content. And we want to do a lot of stuff that people really haven't seen in a game before.
yeah.
When we set that up with Halloween, we wanted to say, let's do the biggest Halloween festival, let's do the biggest holiday festival anyone's ever seen, and take it above and beyond, and give that to them for free, and have that with no monthly fee. And that's our goal with everything we do in the future. Is we want to update the game more and add tons of free content that is through holidays and festivals, and also through tons of things that stay behind permanently. I think a little bit of stuff got lost in the shuffle with Halloween, where we added all the Halloween festival stuff. But with that build, we also added over 50 new permanent events in the world. We added 2 permanent new mini dungeons and treasure chests at the end of those. We added some new jumping puzzles to the world that'll permanently stay behind. And we added our competitive PvP tournaments for people to start earning qualifier points, where they can compete in the championship tournaments in the future. So those are huge features that we added as well. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that stuff on a very regular basis in the future. Starting actually as early as November 15th will be our next build.
Awesome. And can you talk about what's in that build at all, or is that still kind of just hush hush?
I can tell you a little bit about what you'll see. So this
Okay.
isn't everything, but the November 15th release will be our next really big release after the Shadow of the Mad King. Some of the new stuff that you'll see in there, there's going to be a beta version of a new PvP map, and we'll be putting that out live so people can test it and give us feedback on it. And if people really like it, we'll add it to the permanent PvP rotation. We're going to have a weekend-long event that's going on that permanently changes the world in some places and opens up a new island that people can explore and play on. It's a small map, but it's a map with a lot of fun stuff, and it actually has a storyline that builds across the entire weekend, changes the world, and this island is a part of that story. And the big piece that we'll also be revealing over the course of the weekend is a brand new type of dungeon that we're adding to the game. And this dungeon gets perpetually harder the farther you get into it. It's a really big dungeon. It has a ton of different levels to it. They continually get harder and harder the farther in you get. And we're going to add a whole bunch of new rewards to the game that people have never seen before that are buried deep within this dungeon. So people really want to fight their way through it and get down to the bottom to get to where all these really cool rewards are. So that's just some of the stuff that's coming with this build. The dungeon in particular is something that we think people are going to be really excited about, along with this new PvP map and the new island and the event and the other features we'll be adding as well.
This is going to be an odd question based on the dungeon. I actually play a game that's browser based, and it has something kind of similar where you just go through different levels and it gets harder, and then the person that completes it the first, of course, gets announced across the server. Are you going to plan on any sort of server first announcements or anything like that?
We're still talking about on it if we want to do any sort of server first announcement, but in the future, I think one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we have messaging so players can tell who are the best at different things, who have gotten the farthest in different areas. Right now for World versus World, we put those scores up in our forums on a weekly basis, and we're going to start doing more of that going forward, and eventually build towards having official sites where you can go and see all of that information as well. And that's all stuff that's in the works right now and will be coming very soon.
Awesome. Let's see. So, someone did ask, and I think you sort of touched on this, will there ever be dynamic events that affect the whole world, like the end of the beta events and so forth?
Those are when we talk about sort of these one-off world events that we're going to be doing more and more of in the future. Sometimes instead of doing a festival 1 month, we might actually do a really cool world event. And those things that we've done at the end of betas are examples of things that we would actually do. Things like the lead-in and the build-up across the Mad King Festival are things that we would do. You'll see the thing that actually reveals this new island that gets added to the world, and the dungeon that gets added to it is actually part of this big sweeping event that happens over the weekend in November. That weekend of, I guess it starts November 16th, is the start of the actual event. And so you'll see some of that going on as well. I think the world-spanning events we've done in the past are things that we certainly would do, and hopefully you're going to see us do things a lot bigger than that as well as we go forward.
Wow, that's actually surprising that, you know, y'all plan on just making it just so much more than what it already is with Halloween, but I mean, you did so much with Halloween. Like you go into Lion's Arch and you sort of don't even recognize it because it's just
Yes.
completely changed. And it's not just there, but there are a lot of places throughout the world that changed, and the build up towards that was awesome. And I remember like seeing so many people in Lion's Arch waiting for the Mad King to pop out in the center, in the Grand Piazza, and everybody just waiting. And then when he
Yeah.
finally came, you just see everybody just walk away, like they were
Yes.
done. And so
or they all jump in the little hole that he left behind. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I've never really seen this that in depth in a game, and so I look forward to that. And I think there's so many things to keep people coming back to the game, but I think these events are definitely something that are just huge and
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I think we really want to focus on two big areas as we add stuff. We want to add a whole ton of permanent content so that people always feel like there's new stuff for them to come do at all times. One of our big focuses in the very near future here, and this new dungeon that we're adding helps do some of this, is to add a lot more stuff for people to do who have a character that's up towards max level. We're going to be adding a ton of stuff for people to do at that point, and really expanding on the scope of stuff for people to do in that part of the game, along with adding a whole lot more to the world versus world side and the PvP side. So really adding that day to day, all these different things that you can go do, and a whole bunch of new rewards for you to earn. And we're going to be building a lot of that stuff very soon. And then the other half of it is those moment to moment stories. I think when you look back on what people love about MMOs and the stuff that I remember from my early days playing text based games and then MMOs after that, the stories I remember are one off things that happened. And our founder Michael Bryan loves to say this is, it's the stories that you remember, the things that happen once, and sometimes they're community-driven things, sometimes they're world events that happen by accident, sometimes they're world events that were created by GMs. But those are the moments that you look back on 5 or 10 or 15 years later on one of these games and you really remember. And we think that's really important to build a personality in our world and to build that sense of there's this evolving storyline and the world really can change. So, the statue in Lion's Arch is destroyed now and it's gone. And that's something that is a direct result of this event. And we're going to be doing more of that stuff going forward so people can look back in 6 months and they have all these great stories that they can say about things that they witnessed in Guild Wars. And that's really important to us and a huge focus for what we're going to be doing.
I just imagine someone going, back in my day, there was a statue still here. Let's see. Another question from the forums. What have you learned from this Halloween release that will apply to the future updates and expansions?
Well, I think we've learned an awful lot. Some of it is just making sure that we do better messaging, both in the game about where things are that you can do for the festival, how to do all of it, better messaging out of the game to make sure that we tell people this is what time things are happening and this is where you show up. These are how the different phases work. We think messaging is something that we definitely need to improve on next time and do a better job of getting the word out to people of here are all the different things that you can do and how you actively do them. So that's something we're going to be improving on a lot in the future. So that's a big one. Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest lesson that we took from it. Just another one is making sure that we know where people are going to go and what they're going to do, and we're planning ahead of time for all the different places that they'll log into and stuff that they're going to experience. And we have a clear plan ahead of us for what they're going to do over the course of these couple weeks when we do a big event like this.
Awesome. Now, one question I did have in regards to this is the Halloween event and the clock tower. There were a lot of complaints on people who were maybe on Asura, and they couldn't necessarily see through all of the other people. And I'm not sure, was that intentional, or was that kind of something that you might take from that and learn for the future of making it perhaps instanced or something, a single player?
It's definitely feedback that we'll listen to, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
we'll sit down and talk about in the future if we do something like that. What choices do we want to make design wise to take that into account? Because we know we want people to have fun with this stuff, and that's super important. And we also, it's a challenge, right? Because it's an MMO, and so we want it to be social. We want you to be able to go in there with other players and experience this stuff. And have that moment of like you see somebody fall above you and crash and die, and you have that moment of terror, like, oh God, I'm next. I don't want to go. and that adds to it, right?
I was
I,
sort of, yes, they're out of my way.
I remember the day the game launched. I made a brand new Asura, and I went to the very first jumping puzzle in the Asura starter zone, and I stood at the bottom of it for 2 hours, and I just watched people fall out of the sky and die over and over and over again, and sat down there trying to give them tips and help them out. And at the same time, every time they splatted, I just couldn't stop laughing because it's awesome watching the social experience of everybody figuring out how to get up there. And slowly, one at a time, people would figure it out, and they'd make it up, and then they'd type in chat, "I made it! Oh my god!" And you'd see them cheer and everything. So we want to have that social experience too. So we need to find a good middle ground where you can have that, but also you can see what's going on, and people aren't ruining your experience.
I actually, I did have sort of a unique experience like that where there's this guy named Rostrick, and I called him Rooster for some reason, and him and I kept jumping together, and we'd end up ahead of everybody, and he was a Sura as well. And finally, we got ported back, and we were waiting, and I said, "If I die, please avenge me if you make it." And then he sent me a tell after that time, and he's like, "I made it, and I avenged your death." And I'm like, "This is amazing." I thought it was
Nice.
great. But yeah, so I mean, I definitely agree with the whole social experience. You wouldn't get that in a single player instance. I think the frustration was just people, Chars versus Asura, and stuff like that. The next question is, how big will the new island be in November, and what will be its setting or theme?
So the new island is not a full size map. It's a sort of medium, smaller size map. It's really kind of a place for the storyline to play out that we want to have over the weekend. And this is a place that will stay behind after the weekend and have some fun content that you can go do there and play there. It's really not intended as like a big end game expansion or anything right now. It's something where in the future we're going to actually, our live team will come back and add more and more content to this island down the road, so it continually changes. But initially, after the event weekend, it's a fun new place that you can go gather some new rewards that you can't get anywhere else in the game, and play around and have a good time with your friends. But the dungeon that we're building is really aimed towards the sort of that expanding on the idea of things that you can do at level 80. And then the island is really focused towards the let's add some more fun content to the game world. Theme-wise, people are going to have to wait and see. We'll be revealing more about that very soon, but I'm not going to give away everything.
Okay, darn. This is switching gears a little bit from events to. I'm curious what the plans are for SPVP, and you already said some things about this already. What new modes are coming out, and what other rewards are in the works, as it seems that people need some sort of a carrot system beyond just cosmetic gear.
Well, one of the big things that just launched is our the competitive tournaments, the paid tournaments where you use tickets that you can earn to enter into these and compete against people for qualifier points. You can also earn rewards like gems out of competing in these tournaments, and it's the only way in the game to get gems other than actually purchasing them. So it's a great way to incentivize PvP players as well. So that's a really big thing that we just put in. Those will earn you qualifier points, which very soon you'll be able to see who has the most qualifier points of all the PvP players, and you'll be able to compare yourself against the other best PvP players in the world. And down the road, we will use those to allow people to qualify for our major tournaments that we're going to be having in the future. So this is really kind of just the beginning of what we want to do. And looking down the road, we have our custom arenas, which we're going to talk a lot more down the road, are the arenas that players can basically set up their own rules and set up their own match sizes and everything for fighting in them. And Jonathan Sharp, we call him Chap, he'll be putting out a lot more information about our PvP plans in relation to that very soon. But that's a big part of it. It also gives these competitive teams a place to practice against each other to get ready and get better at our game. Down the road, there are certain other features we're obviously going to need to add that are just sort of mandatory in any game that wants to be a large competitive game. And those are things that we actually have people working on right now, and we'll be adding in the somewhat near future as they all get finished, and we're really happy with them. From the sense of progression and additional rewards, we actually are working on some of that too. And that's not something I'm going to talk about today, but those are in the works, and we're continuing to expand on more stuff for PvP players across the board. We actually have an entire team dedicated just to competitive PvP that is currently, as I sit here talking to you upstairs, building new features, new rewards, and expanding on the stuff that is available, including this new map that we're going to add on November 15th.
Now, I do have a question. Are there any plans to perhaps give experience to your character outside of SPVP? Like when you're doing SPVP, but it gives you experience to level up outside of that? Like if you don't want to level through traditional leveling and you just want a PvP?
Well, I can say it's definitely something that we are currently talking about, and we
Mm.
haven't made a decision yet on if we're going to do that or not. But it is something that we're actively discussing. And the most important thing is we want to feel like people who play our game can go play wherever they want and do the things that they're really excited about, and feel like they get rewarded for it. And they can feel like they can play with their friends wherever they're playing and feel like they can get rewarded for it. And those will always be our goals as we try to build anything in Guild Wars 2. And so certainly we're evaluating PvP, World versus World, and PvE for that right now, and making sure that it feels like it's rewarding enough in each part of the game. It feels like there is enough stuff for you to do in each of those parts of the game. And where we've seen there isn't, we're currently working on adding a whole lot of more stuff for each of those different parts and phases right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what's your opinion on build saving tools and perhaps seeing those in the game in the future so people can switch between builds they like?
It's certainly something that we have talked about. It was a feature we ended up adding to Guild Wars 1 a while after the game initially released. It's not currently something that we have anybody working on, but someday I could see that being something that we build. I think right now we're really focused on those ideas of what is rewarding in our game and what are the things that you want to go do at level 80. What are the additional game types that you want to go do? What are the things that you and your friends can do every day when you log in? And we're really focusing on expanding those in every part of the game right now. And once we get that stuff in, I think then we'll take a look at more feature stuff like the potential of templates down the road.
And are there any plans to offer more skills or other forms of PvE progression similar to how completing campaigns could net you new skills in Guild Wars 1?
We haven't planned anything like that yet, but it is certainly something we might do in the future.
Okay. What are the plans for expanding guild features, guild halls, calendars, and things like that?
Well, we have said in the past that someday there will be guild halls in the game, and that is definitely something that we want to keep that promise. It's not something we are actively working on today, but someday we will definitely add guild halls to the game, and we will certainly expand on guild features down the road as well.
And can you talk about your thoughts on housing for both players and guilds? You kind of already mentioned guilds, so player
Yeah.
housing.
I could say that's another one that currently we're not actively working on, but housing is another thing that we think is pretty awesome, and certainly, the MMOs we've played, we love housing, and who knows, someday it may find itself in Guild Wars 2.
That's a question I think gets asked about every game that doesn't have housing.
Seriously, yeah, it's like housing, mounts. What else is out there? Those are big ones that always get asked. So
Well, you have a
we're,
broom now.
yeah, we're always thinking about that stuff.
Will there be 10-man or larger sized dungeons for groups to try? Even hard mode versions that take 10 people to complete?
This is another one I don't really want to go into specifics yet on, but that whole concept of we're evaluating every part of the game right now and trying to add new places that people can go and things for people to do with their friends that feel like they add new challenges, new places for rewards, and things that every day when you log in you feel like I have X, Y, and Z I can go do today. We know that our fans are ready for more of that stuff, and they want a lot more things to do in the game. And so we're evaluating every part of the game to say what is stuff that we could add that allows people to go do more stuff in our game. What are the things that they're looking for that they're going to be excited about playing? And so, those type of things are all things that we talk about in the process of figuring out what do we want to add as we go forward.
Okay. Another question from MMORPG is, are there any plans to introduce legendary armor to go along with the weapons, perhaps special armor skills that are related to them?
Not currently, but you never know what might happen in the future.
Will any future updates include an improved looking for group tool, especially for the dungeons?
I think that's another one where down the road we might take a look at that. Currently, nobody is working on that one because we feel we have more important issues that we're dealing with in the game. But I think at some point that's another area that we could take a look at.
And another thing that I sort of touched on in one of my videos was that there was no easy way to find other players to group up with in like world events and stuff. And I think that's sort of what they were touching on, but just any plans for the future to add an ease of getting into parties with other people so you can complete these events together?
Yeah, I think anything that we can do to help people be able to play with other players better and build a sense of community in our game more is really important to us. And those are always the type of things that we're going to be looking at and working on at some point to try to expand out that capacity. Because I think what really makes an MMO is it's an RPG that you get to play with everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the tools that let you do that, And if you don't have a game that encourages that, and thankfully, with our event system and the way that looting works in our game and the way that using crafting nodes work in our game, we set up so much of the game to support that and make you want to play with other players by actually rewarding you for doing it. And so we want to look at every single part of our game and make it better to work with other players as much as we possibly can.
Speaking of crafting, uh, I was jokingly disappointed when I realized everybody else could craft the same node because I'd always go, it's mine, and then yeah. Anyway, so you really dissuaded people like me from doing that.
Good.
Are there any plans to improve dungeon rewards to make them more worth doing?
We are actively working on dungeon rewards right now, actually, and taking a look at all the different things that we'd like to do with our dungeons to make them even more fun to play and make them something that people want to do even more in the future. So yeah, we've got folks working on that as we speak right now.
And with the dungeon changes that happened not too long ago, do you feel, because I sort of got the feeling that they were sort of over nerfed and not worth doing after that, because they not only took more time to do, but you got less rewards in the end. What are your all's feelings on that, or do you feel like it's at where you want it to be now?
Well, I think we're still working on it. Like I said, we're trying to work on the rewards for dungeons a little
Yeah.
bit, and definitely tweak that area to get to a point where we feel like it's something that everybody's excited about doing, and you're going to want to overcome the difficulty of those and learn how to beat them.
Hmm.
And so we want to make sure that everybody's happy with those and feels like they're a good challenge, and you get rewarded for the time you spend in them. And that's definitely a big focus of one of the things that we're working on right now.
Okay. Now, this is actually the last question from
Okay.
the MMO forums, and can you talk about the recent post on Guild Wars Insider that says a possible MOBA-style PvP game is in the works? The Halloween PvP map was kind of like this.
Well, I think where that came from is years ago we played around with one of those, and somebody did an interview a while ago where they talked about how we had a MOBA map early on that we were playing with, and it was something that we scrapped because it just wasn't working very well at the time. All the things like that are always open on the table as projects we might go after again in the long term. They tend to pop up again in the form of mini games. So, like you said, for Halloween, the skeleton battle was a little bit of a sense of a MOBA game in a way with your guarding your mausoleums and everything. And those type of different games are great things for us to play with in mini games. And if we find a mini game that really works and we think it's really fun, those are the types of things that maybe we'll look at expanding on PvP down the road. I think right now we have other areas of PvP we really want to focus on first. We want to get the game type we have really popular. We want to get all the features in there we know that are needed to really grow PvP. And once all of that's in place, then we'll sit down and take a look at what else do we want to do to grow it from there.
Okay. Is there anything that you wanted to add to close with or anything?
I guess biggest thing would be, we're just winding down Halloween right now, and we really appreciate how many people showed up to check out the festival. We had a really great time getting to play the game with everybody for the last week and a half. It was really fun, and I couldn't encourage enough everybody to turn around 2 weeks from now and come back and check out our next release. It is even bigger than the things that we've done for Halloween. If I know if it's possible, it is an even larger update, and this is really just the start of the beginning for us. We have always viewed live development at ArenaNet as the most important part of the game, and it's where you send a message to the fans and you send a message to your customers of whether you're going to support the product and be a quality service or you're not. And we want to be the game that gives you, for no monthly fee, as much possible content and as much out of each thing that we do as we can. And our Halloween festival was really our kickoff of that, and really kind of drawing a line into the sand and saying, this is the type of stuff we're going to do, and this is the promise we're making to you as a company. And as we go forward, every month we want to be able to deliver on that again and again in the future and keep adding live updates for free to the game that are of the quality that we've done up until now or better. We hope that as we go forward right now, obviously this is all just words, but we hope 2-3 months from now when people look back, they say, hey, November had all of that, December had all that, January had all of that, and we really have this clear volume of stuff people can look back at, and they can say, ArenaNet literally added an entire expansion's worth of stuff to this game for free. That's where we'd like to be. So we really hope folks come back, check out the game, play it, and keep playing it. It's amazing how many people are playing right now. It's blown us away, and please, keep checking out these updates, and we will deliver.
And the Halloween stuff, does it end November 6th or is it already over?
Halloween stuff will be ending today,
Today. Okay.
sometime this afternoon. Yes, it may have already ended while we've been sitting here talking. I'm not sure, but
Uh-oh.
it will be ending today. And the first teasers leading up to the November weekend will also be appearing in game very, very soon. So keep an eye out. They might show up as early as today as well.
Oh, really? Oh,
Hmm.
wow. So, incentive to log in. Okay.
Yes,
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to answer these questions.
absolutely. Thank you.
And